We're back again, and for this video we are still working on the one-piece cardigan from the last video, but we are doing the button band and the cuff and waistband. They are done the same on both styles of the cardigan, so whether you've done the solid granny square or the traditional granny square one, doesn't matter, ribbing is the same. What you will need to do is you will need to find yourself some buttons, at least 4. 3 you could get away with, 4 is better, in the size you want. I work on this size for children's clothing because it's easier for them to manipulate. What else do we need? Just get these out of the way. We also need some stitch markers. Bring them in. So let's get a little handful of stitch markers, and we will bring back our cardigan that we're working on. So this is the one from last video, and I have done a little bit already so that the video is not going to be massively too long. And I've also started to color control, like I said I might. I've separated out the last ball of yarn. If you remember, this is what my ball of yarn looks like. I still don't know what colorway it is. I'm thinking it's red velvet, but I could be wrong. So I've separated out the colors so that I can put all grey on the bottom, which I have actually done. This is done the same as the wrist. I will explain as we do it. All grey on the bottom. I've got the darker red for the cuffs, and then I'm retaining the brighter red to do the button band. That's my plan. So I am still on, well, what are we on? The third ball? Yes. No, I'm still on the second ball. This one that's attached is the second ball, and I've divided up the third ball because I needed some of the grey. So that's where we're at. I am on the bands. Of course, you need your hook. Now, with ribbing, you want to use a smaller hook. So we're going to use a 5mm here. We used a bigger one on the body of the jacket. We want a smaller one because your yarn will stretch and you want it to gather in a bit. As you can see, it's pulling in, which is what we want, because with use it will flatten out again. So you want to start off on the right track. And what we're going to do for the arms only, not for the bottom, we're going to do a little bit of gathering in stitching. No counting involved, we're just going to do it. And I'm going to do that with the grey on this other arm, and then I'll get to how you actually do the ribbing. So we'll just get the grey. This bit's a fairly easy part, and you need to do this because it won't have the right shape if you don't do it. So find the end of yarn, do yourself a slip knot like this, and then over the top. And with your sleeve, we want to find the opposite. So this is the top where we had the join as you go. So you need to find the opposite side. So just lay them flat and match up your granny squares like so, all the way down. Right, so we're in the middle of this. So we'll just put that through there so we know that one's the middle one. And all we're going to do to begin with is we're going to do a row of single crochet around the armhole. So I'm going to I've put the slip knot on my hook and pull it through. Pick up another loop that just secures it. I'm going to hold the end along there. I'm going to go back into the same stitch so that the actual first stitch is a stitch. We are going through this hole under both strands of each stitch, and we're just putting a single crochet in every stitch, not a slip stitch. This is a single crochet. The difference between a single crochet and a slip stitch is we have 2 loops, then we pick up another one and pull it through. A slip stitch is we have 2 loops and we pull the second one through the first. We're not doing that. We are doing a single crochet. So I'm going to go do this all the way around till I get to here. I'm just going to show you how to do this without adding a stitch. This is our join here, so I'll come back when I've gone to there. Now I've got to the top of the sleeve. This is our join as you go join. So we're going to do a single crochet, but we're going to go around the join. This width of this is actually like about the width of 3 single crochets, so we're reducing it to 1. If you go around the join, you lose those gaps either side. So we're just going to keep going, doing normal single crochets. That's the only one you do different. And when we get around again to the other side, I will show you how to get to the next one. So we're all the way back now, and this is our last stitch. So we do that stitch there. Now this little bump here, this is our slip knot. This is our first actual stitch. That's why we did them both in the same one. So we can reach across that one underneath those 2 strings, pull that through, and then pull it in. That is a slip knot join. Now we need a second row. The reason why I'm doing this in the grey is because that's the colour we finished with. I wanted this part to blend in and the cuff to be a different colour. If I bring it back, you can see that. See, that was my single crochet row. This is the next row, and then we do the cuff, so it looks different and you get that nice zigzaggy effect there. You can do them in the cuff colour, entirely your choice. So we're going to do some half double crochets. Now you can do 2 chains here. I only do 1 because we're actually trying to make this quite compact. So I just do 1 and I make it a slight bit longer. You still want your first one to be in the first stitch, and then pull through everything. I'm going to do that again. So you have a loop on your hook, pick up a loop, go underneath both loops of the top of the previous row, pull it through, and then you pick up another loop and pull through the lot. Now with this stitch, we are going to do the same stitch all the way around. There's nothing fancy. This is our one above the join as you go. That's now a plain single crochet, so we can do a half double crochet in there. So I'll be back when I've come around to here, and I'll show you how to start up the actual ribbing. So we're back to our beginning here. This here is not a stitch. This is our slip stitch that joined the previous row. Don't get deceived into thinking that is a stitch. So we are going to go through the first actual stitch. That was our chain 1. This is our actual stitch. So we're going here. We're going to pull that through and then pull that through again. Pull this tight so we're not making it bigger. And then this is the way I finish off, 2 stitches. Cut yourself a decent tail and pull it through. So it's really only 1 stitch, and then use your fingernail to pull it down to your work. So that's been done. So that's finished our edge off, and if you look, it has bordered in slightly, which is what we wanted. Now we need to start the ribbing. Now what I wanted to show you, I've already done the ribbing on the bottom. It is done the same way as the cuff. That's why I'm showing you on the cuff. And we started here and did our first chain from here and worked that way around. This is the same way we're going to do this. The only difference between the waistband ribbing and the cuff ribbing, this is 11 stitches up, whereas this one will be 9. We lose the end stitch because that's our turning stitch. So in reality for this one, we're going to be working 8 stitches. For this run, we were going to be working 10 stitches because we went up 11. So the only difference is the amount of chains that we started with. So we've got our yarn that we're going to be doing the cuff with. We're going to put a slip knot in the end, same way as we did the other one. I'm going to do that slowly. So that's your short edge. Over your finger, pick up the yarn that's attached to the ball, behind and over. Pull the back over the front. That is all we do. Put it on your hook and then find where you finished off. Luckily we have a really long tail there to tell us. So we're going to do a slip knot into that stitch like so, and then we're going to chain 9. Okay, just make sure that's nice and tight. Pull them out the way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So then you want to, you see all the V's on the top of the stitches here. We want the back, so we're going to turn it over. But before I turn it over, we want to keep going into here, not to here. So turn it over and there will be a bump, a little bump. That is the one we want. You can see the next bumps here, 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 all the way down. Another reason why I didn't use black, so you can actually see them. And then pull it through. We are just doing a row of single crochet. Now you should have 8 here. We'll get to the end, we'll make sure we've done 8. These are just single crochets using the back bump to go through. We're going from front to back on the back bump. Back bump is the third part of each chain. 2 at the front, 1 at the back. And the next one. I haven't been counting, so I will count when I get to the end to make sure we've got them. And 1 here. Now make sure you don't miss the one at the bottom, because it's a little bit harder to see. It's right at the base. And so let's just count how many we have, starting at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're counting the V's on the top here that you can see. So we are fine. So how do we join to the work? We do 2 slip stitches. So we're going under there, pick up that. The first slip stitch is to finish that row. The second slip stitch is to start the next row. 1 and 2. Turn your whole work around. And then we want to go into the back loop. So you're looking for the V on the top. We want the back loop, so the V part that's furthest away from you. Make sure that you are skipping the 2 slip stitch V's on your work. And then we are doing a single crochet into the back loop. So tilt the work so you can see it. Pick up a loop and pull it through. You do this all the way up, keeping on going. Go as slow as you need to because it will look neater. And another one, and it's making a ridge which makes it into ribbing. 1 there and then 1 there. So that gets us to the end. We should still have 8, 2, 4, 6 and 8. We do a chain to turn it over. Now, so you're not flipping your work every single time you do this, get your string and go behind your hook. Then you just need to turn the work. You don't have to move everything. And now your yarn is back in the right place. If you look here, you can see there's our last complete stitch. That was the chain we just did. So we turn the work and then we're going for the back loop that is looking at us, not the chain we did. This is how we keep the same amount of stitches every time. And you work your way back down. This is what you repeat for every stitch around the end of the cuff, putting 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch. Now I'll just get to the end of here and I'll show you what it looks like now that we're on our 3rd row of ribbing. And 1 more here. Make sure you don't lose this one. This one sometimes can get hidden. And then we do 1 slip stitch to finish the row. The next slip stitch starts the next row. So just have a quick look at that. That's what we have so far, the beginning of our ribbing. So you have 2 ridges on this side, 1 ridge on that side. We now turn the work. You keep your thread in your hand because it's in the right place. miss the 2 that are on the body of work, and you go for the 3rd visible V, which is the first complete stitch, and then work your way back up. This is a great thing to do, like maybe when you're watching telly, once you get the hang of it, because it's the same thing over and over and over again. I'm just going to get to the end of this row, and I'll switch to the other arm so I can show you how to finish it, because that one's 1 row off finishing. Don't forget your chain 1 at the end of this row. So do a chain 1, and now I'm going to put a stitch marker on that so I don't lose what I've just done. And you just carry on, and if you look here, there is our little zigzag starting, because it looks like we're skipping one. We're not. It's pulling towards that way. So I'll just move that out of the way, and I'll get organized to show you the other arm on how to finish this ribbing. So here we have the other arm that I had already done most of the ribbing on. This is our beginning with our tail, and we've worked our way all the way around. We have 1 more row to do, and then we're going to be joining it up. So yours should look like this, and if it's just resting here, you can see that it is coming in, which is what we want. So we'll put our loop back on our hook, pull the yarn tight again. We already have the chain 1 done, so we're just going to go down like I just showed you how to start. This is how we carry on. Still only 8 stitches. And you will start recognizing where the stitches go the more you do it. With the waistband one, we just finish off with the 2 pull throughs. We don't have to join it up, but on the sleeves we have to join it up. Now if you look here, you really have to dig for this last one. So if you use the back of your hook, you should be able to separate it from the rest. So that's got us down. We need to do 1 slip stitch to finish that row, and then the next slip stitch is actually into the same one that we started with. Now I did not count how many stitches there were in the half double crochet row, so that has worked out like that. Yours may not, it doesn't matter. Either way, if you're next to it or the one on it, they both will work. So now I'm just flipping the ribbing to this side. I'll move my hand so you can see. So I've flipped it down. We want to bring the 2 edges together, and then we are going to go the back loop of this one and the back loop of that one. Try and get the right one. This will be a little bit harder because this is our starting chain, but you should be able to get it right there. You see I've got the loop that was on the hook, one from this side, one from that side, and these are going to be slip stitches. I'll do that again for the next one. The one on this side will be looser, the one on this side will be tighter. Take your time, go slowly, and we are doing a slip stitch, and you work your way along doing this all the way up. This is how you join the 2 parts of the ribbing, and you get a stitch from each side. Now if for some reason you have too many stitches when you get to the end, what you can do is pull out, like say 3. Don't do it right on the end, do it away from the end, and then you can either go through the same hole again to lose a stitch on this side, no, gain a stitch on this side, or you can jump one and then pull back, okay? But don't do that unless you have to. Try and do it 1 stitch to 1 stitch, working your way along, slip stitching it. And we are nearly there. Luckily there's only 8 stitches. 1 there, 1 there, pull it in. Now if this is really not working for you, you can just sew them together with needle and thread. that is still acceptable. This is just the way you do it with crochet. And done. So you don't need to do the very end one, you just do 1 and 2 and then cut it off with a decent tail. Pull the hook out, bring these down to here. So you need to weave these two ends in, but when we turn the sleeve back out, the ribbing is done. Now let me just show you where the slip stitches are. They're right there and you can barely see them. The only difference is that it doesn't have the back part. You see how this has a back part? It doesn't. So it's right there. So that's how you do the ribbing on the sleeves. And like I said, the base one is the same stuff, we just haven't joined it. So we just stopped and then weave the end in. The next thing you want to do is your buttons. And you need to make a button band. So if we get the jacket laying flat as we can get it, we want to figure out where you want buttons. Now, you always want at least one in the ribbing, but you don't want it at the bottom of the ribbing. You want it like a little bit up from the bottom, and then you want another one pretty close to where this is. You want to leave enough room at the top so they can get their head through. So what I usually do first is that I'm going to do it in single crochet because that stitch doesn't have as much stretch as a double crochet stretch. I'm going to be doing it in the bright red. So first of all, we will turn our work this way and get our hook, get our string. And we're just going to do 2 rows of single crochet all the way around just to stabilize the edge and to give us a firm edge to work to. Now, starting in the ribbing, you need to find the edge. You see the V's here? This is what we're looking for. We need to go right in at the edge. And because these are single crochets, you should be able to just put 1 in each one. So just go down here, 1 in each one. So that's fine. You just need to put 1 in every stitch all the way around. I'm going to come back when I've gone all the way around and all the way back. At the top here, we do the same thing as we did on the ribbing. We're going to do around there as a single crochet. So I'll come back when I've done those 2 rows. So we've done our 2 rows of single crochet all the way around, and I've just put my working loop on a stitch marker so that I can work out my button placement. Now, one thing to remember, up here around the neck, make sure you don't do this part too tight. You don't want to give them a sore neck. If you need to, where this join is, you can actually put an extra stitch in there if you want. I don't, I just make sure I don't make this too tight. So we'll just lay that flat. Now the next thing is you don't want to put any buttons up too high. So I've just put a stitch marker where the arm, in line with the armpit. So you can go a little bit higher than this, but not much. That's usually my guide for where the top button will be. And like I said before, I try to put 1 into the ribbing, but not right at the bottom. So somewhere in the middle of the ribbing, like lower middle of the ribbing would be another one. The other thing you want to check, these are the buttons I'm going to use for this jacket because they are an appropriate colour. They are a little bit unusual. I think a kid might like those. But you want to make sure that these 2 rows you just done, the button covers about half of them. If you look at it, it's about half of the button. So what that means is when you totally finish your button band, the button will sit on the button band, not on your work. This is actually a bit more delicate than the button band. That's why we're doing single crochet, because it's a little bit more of a hardier stitch. So just make sure that your button is on the button band, halfway on the button band, not onto your work. So next thing to look at is how many stitches your button will cover. So we've got a stitch there and we've got a stitch there. So that is 1, 2, 3. It's going to cover 3, but as I said before, this yarn will stretch. So what I'm going to do is I'm only going to skip 2 because the yarn will stretch enough for the 3. So that's what we've worked out. We need to skip 2 stitches for these buttons. I've got 4, I can have more. We just need to mark where we want to put them. So I'm going to put a marker around halfway on the ribbing. So we'll just fold it up, find halfway, it's about there. So I'll put a marker there. That's for our first button. I'm putting it here so it's out of the way of my crocheting, but it's indicating where it should be. So next thing we want to figure out, do we want 2 buttons in the middle? So if we put a button where we've already put markers, we'll just have a look. I think that looks actually quite good, evenly spacing them out. So I will go with 4 buttons, but if you've got like an odd shape and a 5th button would look better, you can do that. I wouldn't put less than 4, like I said before. Less than 4 will mean it will gape between them. I think this is a good arrangement. So what I'm going to do while they're sitting there, I will just mark them where they are. Now I'm not going to count the stitches between them because I don't think it's necessary as long as they're visually even. If I can get that stitch marker in, trying not to catch the work behind it. So take that away. I think these are fairly evenly spaced. Let's have a look. Yep. Alright, I'm happy with that. Like I said, if you want to count your stitches between, you can. As long as they visually look about the same, that will be fine. So now that we've worked that out, how do we make the button holes? So you just turn your work, get everything organized again. Take your stitch marker off your working loop, put the yarn behind so it makes a nice edge. So I'm going to go with those 2 stitches that are directly above my marker. So they're the 2 I'm going to skip. So let's just do, we've done a chain 1 to turn, and we're just going to do single crochets up to those 2 stitches. And where are we there? 1 more. Alright, so we're above those 2 stitches. So now I'm just going to do a chain 2. Don't try and make the chains bigger or anything. We're going to skip those 2. And we're going to carry on until we're above the next marker. Just normal single crochets. Nearly there. Alright, so that's the 2 that are above this stitch marker. So chain 2, skip those 2, go into the next. I'm just going to do 2 here so it doesn't pull looser. So if we go back and have a look, there's our first hole, there's our second hole. So I'm going to keep doing this till I get to there, and then the rest of the row will be a single crochet, and then I'll come back. And I will be back when I'm about here to show you how to reinforce the other side of the hole. So we've gone all the way around and we've come back and we are at the first place that we skipped the 2 stitches and chained above them. There is our marker. So all we do for this is we don't want to lose any stitches because it will create a pucker. So we will do this last stitch here, which is the one after the chain 2. Then we do 2 stitches around the chain, so just go through the hole and do a stitch and then carry on. So I'll just get to the next one to show you it again. This is the back of the work because we're coming back, that's why it looks different. Where is our, there it is there. So we've got 4 more to do, and it's just single crochet. That way we're creating a fabric that is not as stretchy. So there's our last one there. And then our gaps. So we put 2 in here because we skipped 2. So we're just putting it back so that it doesn't pucker. And then carry on. So that is our buttonholes right there. So I'll just get to the end and then I'll show you what to do just to finish this off. Alright. So this row is now done and we have our little buttonholes started along there. The first thing you want to do before you go any further, because now is when you can correct it if you need to, is you want to try and push your button through your buttonholes. Now it should go through, but not easy. So you want it to like sit there, not fall through. That way it'll be snug when it's being used, but not too tight that you can't get it through. All right, so that is working. Check a couple of them, not just one, just in case you're a bit tighter. So that is fine. So the next thing you want to do, I'll bring this up a bit so you can see. See how this is curling here? What we want to do another 2 rows of single crochet. Now that this is just plain single crochet, that's fine. But what I also might do on my very last row is I might just do a single crochet in the back loop row, and what that'll do is it'll stop that curling. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So it's 2 rows, so there and back again in just single crochet, and then I'm going to do 1 row single crochet just in the back loops, and that will sit on the back of here and flatten it all down. So I'll be back when that's done. I might even sew the buttons on. And before I go, if you don't like your buttons on the left, what you need to do is you need to mark out all your buttonholes on the other side. I tend to do it on this side so that I can get through the buttonholes and make sure they're correct before I finish the rest. So if you like them to be buttoned the other way, that's fine. You just need to transfer it to the other side before you start making the buttonholes. So I'll go off and do that, and next time you see this part at least will be totally finished. And here we have the finished cardigan. All the ribbings are done. All the button band is finished with the slip stitch in the back loop along the edge. One thing I will say, make sure that your wool needle fits through the holes on the back of your button. I had to hunt around for a needle that would work so that I could secure them on. I've put all the buttons on the same orientation so it looks a bit better to me. Just undoing them so I'll show you all the way up. So it's a little bit tight now because I've only just done them. There's the buttons on the other side, the corresponding with the holes on this side. So that's all done. So this is the one-piece cardigan all finished, plus doing button band and ribbings. I hope that was helpful. These of course can be used on any crochet articles that you want to make. That's why I did it as a separate video. The principles are just the same on how you do it. So if you like this, please share, like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.